there was an outside chance that the SEC would have gotten 3 teams out of the 4 in the CFP this year. I highly doubt that because of November. Remember the 19th of November. It was an absolutely awful day for the SEC. What is up, everybody? It is Jake with Master of Football, back at it again. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on all things EA college football, pro football, Madden, anything related to American football, subscribe to this channel right now. You will not be disappointed. Won't cost you anything. All it's going to cost you is being up to date on all things EA college football, pro football, Madden, basically everything I just said right there. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Have you just ever had like the worst day? Now again, not bad in everything, because 100% of things can go wrong in a day. However, there can be one day that is disproportionately bad compared to other days out there. That will be remembered for the SEC in 11/19 of 2022. It was an absolutely horrendous day for them in multiple respects. Now remember, I want to make sure we're clear about something, okay? I think that Georgia is still in line for the national championship. They still are the favorite. I think they'll probably win their first round game. Their second round game, I don't know. You know, maybe Ohio State gives them a game. Michigan looks like that actually might be a tough game between Michigan and Ohio State, so there'll be some good things there. But man, the rest of the conference, not named Georgia, had a really, really bad day. We start off with this game here. Number 5, Tennessee. And again, they had a really easy trip. All they had to do was they had to go in, they had to beat South Carolina at South Carolina, and then beat Vanderbilt. Very reasonable games to do so. And then they gave up 63 points. Come out here and you see the fact that Hendon Hooker had 240 and 3 touchdowns. Spencer Rattler had 430 and 6 touchdowns. They gave up 150 on the ground and 3 touchdowns additionally there. So they gave up 9 touchdowns. They gave up 21 in the first quarter, 21 in the fourth quarter, and then 21 in the second and third quarter. They had an absolutely horrendous day that ultimately resulted in them getting knocked out. Because remember, because of the way the conference championships were set up, they did lose to Georgia at Georgia. That's a very, I don't want to say it's a good loss, but it's one of the better losses you can have. And then they were like, all right, all you got to do is just win out and then just let these other teams who have to play conference championship games and have to play these other teams they have to play, and they'll slowly chop each other down. However, Tennessee comes out and absolutely lays an egg, gives up 63 on the road. Awful. And to add insult to injury, to add injury to insult, Hendon Hooker tears his ACL. And if you watch the play here, it was really sad, man, because you feel for him. Tennessee beat Alabama for the first time in a long time. They're coming out here. They had a tough game against Georgia, but they look like they're in line to be in that national championship front. However, Hendon Hooker gone. Season more than likely, I should say this, they're probably out for the CFP at this point, but they can still play for some big games out there. Okay, Hendon Hooker tore an ACL. It's going to affect if he tries to go pro. I mean, I don't know whether or not he's going to come back for a 6th year or not, or something like that, if he can apply for a medical red shirt. But it's definitely a sad situation. And in the SEC, it does not get any better when we go to Ole Miss versus Arkansas. So Ole Miss versus Arkansas. Arkansas was unranked, and Ole Miss was 14th. Now, 14th, that helps out because they had lost a couple games to higher-ranked teams. Ole Miss was a good quality opponent when it looked on their schedule. However, now, because of this loss, this does not help their case. Mississippi, again, if you look at this right here, so they were down 21. No, they were down 27-42. That's what they lost by 15. But they scored 21 in the fourth quarter, which means they were down, 42-6 heading into the fourth quarter. That is really, really bad. I mean, look, they had 460 and 2 touchdowns on the ground. They gave up 335 and 3 touchdowns on the ground to Arkansas. Arkansas also had 168 and 3 touchdowns from KJ Jefferson. Jackson Dart, 240, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But think about it, 42-6 heading into the fourth quarter. Rough game there for them. So not only does that hurt the rest of the SEC in terms of, it doesn't appear like there's that many top flight teams that they beat, but some people will say, oh, well, the SEC is so strong because they all beat each other. I suppose, but you're kind of losing that narrative when you've got a bunch of 6-5, 7-4 teams that are playing each other. So this definitely does not help their case. It doesn't hurt as bad as the Tennessee game, but does not help them at all either. And then we go out of conference because every single team, almost all the teams that Tennessee and the rest of the SEC needed to lose They all won. Actually, as a matter of fact, you come over here and check Ohio State versus Maryland. And again, Maryland's been a tough out. Taulia Tagovailoa, he's been playing pretty good there. You come down here and you check this out. So they cut it. Maryland actually cut it. 10 minutes left in the game. They cut it to a 3-point lead. Ultimately, they do not score the remainder of the way. You get a field goal. They get a touchdown with a couple seconds left there. So it was close, but it ultimately went the way for the Buckeyes. They play Michigan next week. And speaking of Michigan, Michigan had an absolute dogfight against Illinois. Michigan's schedule's been a little soft, especially when you see the fact that they played, Colorado State, who's terrible, Hawaii, who's terrible, and they get through a couple games here. But at the same time, they are still 11-0. Okay, 11-0 is 11-0. You can't hate on it. But they come over here, and Blake Corum looks like he gets rolled up in this game a little bit here. Looks like he hurt his leg. But they score in the fourth quarter. They score a field goal, so they were scored 9 points. They were down 10 or 17-10 heading into the fourth quarter. They were down as much as they took a field goal with 9 seconds left in the game to win this game. But still, at the same time, 11-0, you cannot hate on it. Michigan survives. They play Ohio State. Whoever loses that game gets the benefit of having a loss to a top 3 team, and also doesn't have to play a conference championship game. I will say, more than likely, it looks like they're going to play Iowa. Whoever wins this game plays Iowa in the next week, because Iowa plays Nebraska this next week. And I'm letting you know right now, Iowa won against, they beat South Dakota State earlier in the season. They beat them 7-3 with 2 safeties and a field goal. They're not a super threatening team. It's going to be in a dome. If they play Ohio State, they're going to lose by 1,000. If they play Michigan, I think that they'll still have some problems there. I mean, they already played this team last year. They played Michigan last year. So big situation for them from the SEC's perspective. Ohio State won and Michigan won too. And then the one that really, really annoys you if you're an SEC fan, because if you're an SEC fan, you see TCU schedule. They had an 8-point win over SMU. They've got a couple games here. You're like, that's not a really hard schedule. I will say the Big 12 is a better conference than people give it credit for. Again, it might not have as many top-flight teams this year. I know that Oklahoma is down. Texas is solid. But, TCU right now is undefeated. They come out here and they played Baylor, and it was remarkable. They scored in the final 2 minutes and 7 seconds, scored a touchdown, failed a 2-point conversion. So they were down 26-28, get the ball back. They had no timeouts. They ran a play. They had to hurry up as the clock's running down, that get the field goal on the field to kick it for the win. And they ultimately do that. They have a walk-off win at Baylor. TCU hosts Iowa State next week. Iowa State's got a pretty good defense and a really, really bad offense. They should take care of that. They are slated. They are already slotted into the conference championship game for the Big 12. However, if they lose to Iowa State, it's probably over. But, at the same time, they are still alive. This one really hurts if you're an SEC fan of a team that's sitting on the outside. And then another one here, too, USC. And again, I know people are like, oh, well, USC, what? They're not, they're way below these other teams. USC still has an opportunity to play. They're going to play Notre Dame this next week. Notre Dame is a ranked team. And then they're going to more than likely play either Oregon or Washington in the conference championship game. They haven't played Oregon all season. That will be a crazy game to watch there. But if you come down here and check this out, they were down 14-0, but then they outscored them 48-31 the rest of the way. They walked off the field with an interception of Dorial Thompson-Robinson. Dorial Thompson-Robinson, he hurt his thumb. He was banged up. He really, really wanted that victory. I got to give credit to him. Got to give credit there. But USC, they win with turnovers and exciting offense. They're an exciting bunch, and they are still in it. The remainder of the SEC teams, they're definitely hurt by this loss. This does not help their case. Now, I want to make sure we're clear. There was a one small thing of goodness in the SEC. Vanderbilt comes out, beats Florida at home, and now Vanderbilt plays Tennessee at home this next season. Vanderbilt is 5-6. They have an opportunity to play for a bowl bid against Tennessee. Tennessee minus Hendon Hooker. Now, again, Tennessee is still much more talented than Vanderbilt is, but there is still a chance. There's a chance that Vanderbilt, the laughingstock of the SEC, oh my God, Vanderbilt, there's a chance they can go to a bowl game. All they got to do is beat their rivals at home this next weekend. Now, like I said before, there still is a good opportunity for the SEC. Like I said, Georgia is more than likely going to run the table. They play Georgia Tech this week. Georgia Tech had a big win over North Carolina. It does help out a couple of those teams. That was the one win out of conference that really, or one game that actually helped the SEC, because North Carolina was, 9-1. If they were trying to go to 10-1, if they would have got to 10-1, they would have beaten, the last game. They won the last game. They win the conference championship. They'd be 12-1 ACC champs. They would more than likely. I know it seems like it's unlikely here, but they probably would have jumped a couple of these SEC teams, probably Alabama, potentially LSU. So there would have been some potential there, but again, losing to Georgia Tech takes them down. Georgia plays Georgia Tech this next weekend in clean old-fashioned hate. And it's actually, I will say this, there are a couple things that do line up well for the SEC. We see the fact that 2 and 3 will play each other. Now, the problem is that whoever loses that game is not going to fall very far because they only lost to the number 2 or the number 3 team in the country. So they are still in line for the CFP, and they are not going to have to play another game in the conference championship. So they're actually going to be sitting pretty good here. TCU, Iowa State at home, and then they already are slated to play in the Big 12 championship game. USC has a tough game. Okay, they got to play Notre Dame is the number 13 team in the country. Keep on climbing. That's going to be a tough game there. LSU, they're going to play Arkansas. I think they're still probably going to win that game. Clemson is going to play South Carolina. That game got a little bit more interesting here because South Carolina just came out and absolutely just laid the woodshed to Tennessee. So Clemson does not have an easy out in that game there. Alabama has the Iron Bowl. Tennessee has, like I said, they can play Vanderbilt. Okay, Oregon plays Oregon State. Not going to be an easy game if you come down here and check it out. I don't know if Oregon State, did they leave them off here? I bet they did. Call me an idiot. I'm an idiot right there. 22, Oregon State. But, so it's sitting pretty good. So, Alabama, more than likely going to win their game. LSU, more than likely going to win their game. They have to play Georgia in the conference championship game there. But, really, there was an outside chance that the SEC would have gotten 3 teams out of the 4 in the CFP this year. I highly doubt that because of November. Remember the 19th of November. It was an absolutely awful day for the SEC. All right, guys, am I being too harsh here? Again, I think, like I said, there was an outside chance the SEC could get 3 teams in the CFP, but right now, man, that does not look likely at all. I do know the fact that LSU's sitting pretty good right now. If LSU can just take care of business, they're more than likely going to go to the CFP. The issue with that, though, is like, will you see an 11-2 team that beats Georgia in the conference championship game? Is that better than a Clemson team that potentially beats South Carolina and then North Carolina in the conference championship game? That's a debate there. You're also, I guarantee you, the SEC now, biggest fans in the world of, I think Kansas State is the other team that's got potential to play in the conference championship game if they take care of business against Kansas this last week. So what do you guys think right now? How does it line up? Am I being too harsh on the SEC? Are they still probably going to win the national championship anyway? Get in the comments right now and let me know. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I appreciate it. That's it for me. I am out.